Here?
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening and welcome again, everyone, to the July 15th, 16th meeting of the Ashland City Council. My day's turned around here. On behalf of the council, I'd like to begin tonight's meeting with a statement I prepared regarding the rally that took place on Saturday with the assassination attempt on former President Trump, in which Corey Comparatore was killed and two other supporters, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, were critically injured. We want to be absolutely clear that this council and this administration condemns violence in any way, shape, or form, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, age, or political affiliation. Though it's been said already many times, I believe it bears repeating. There is no place for violence in American politics. Not nationally, not statewide, not locally. Additionally, there are probably many good people that may aspire to run for office someday or become active in politics in some way. We as a society should not and cannot allow this event to deter the ambition of tomorrow's leadership. So let us move forward from here courageously as a unified country in pursuit of the American freedoms offered to us through our Constitution. And may God bless America.
Amen. Here, here.
I submit that on behalf of the council. So,
Yes.
thank you. We have a very light agenda this evening. The mayor, as I believe we all know, is in Milwaukee at the RNC convention, as he should be, supporting our candidates, and I know he'll represent well. With that, then, we'll move to the agenda, and first item will be the approval of the minutes from the July 2nd meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes, I'll ask for a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Minutes will stand approved. We have a public hearing for our 2025 tax budget. This will be the second hearing that'll take place at 7:30. We can always start late, but we can never start early. So with that, we'll move down the agenda. We have no resolutions this evening, no old business or new business, unless council has something to bring forward. Hearing none, we'll move right to council comments. And Mr. Lawson, if you'd like to go first, that'd be fine.
Certainly, I'd be happy to, and I want to say thank you, Steve, for that proclamation that you shared with us there tonight. It speaks well for all of us, and I appreciate your taking the time to put that together, and I wholeheartedly endorse it and support it.
Thank you.
So thank you for doing that. I've had a few people contact me about the digging up of their front yards. And are they allowed to do that? And so obviously I think the word is out there. There are two different fiber optics companies that are laying fiber optic cables. And yes, if they are in the public right of way, which can be part of your front yard, but if it's along the street and in the public right of way, they do have the right to do that without asking your permission. And so I think people are concerned that they're digging up their yard or doing things in their yard without their permission. As long as it's in the public easement, which is that section that's right adjoining to the street, they are allowed to be able to do that. And we're trusting them to put things back the way they found them as much as possible. So that would answer that question, because a lot of people have been asking me, are they allowed to do that? Do they have the right to do that? Why are they doing that? Who's doing that? All sorts of questions. So I think we need to kind of allay those fears and kind of put that to rest.
Appreciate that.
The,
They've been in town a while now,
They have.
but go ahead, Jason.
and if anybody's curious, if you go on the county tax map, it will show you roughly where that easement is. Like in my neighborhood, it happens to be 10 feet from the curb line. So, but if somebody's curious whether it's roughly in the easement or not, it's marked on the tax map.
And of course, there are third-party entities out there well in advance marking where utility lines are. So that was the other thing, is why are they spray painting my lawn? Why are they putting these flags in my yard? I didn't ask for that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And so they're just marking where the utilities are so they don't interrupt your electric or other utilities
Sure.
that are buried underground. And so,
And they're, you may have said it, but I'll say it again, they're completely allowed to be there, and do their thing within that right of way, so, yeah. Thank you.
I was assuming they were canvassing a certain area and laying it, but it seems that the approach might be they're waiting for people to order that service, and then they'll bury the fiber optic to their home and then try to get other people to tap into it after they've done that. And so it's not just that they're installing it everywhere, they're waiting for people to order it and then they'll install it.
I see. Interesting. Okay. Angela?
Two things similar on Cleveland Avenue. The whole sidewalk's been tore up. I believe it's gas, though. I believe it might be a gas line going in. So they are working. That is progress, though. We'll appreciate that when the lines are all good and we get gas or water or whatever it is safely to our homes. Last weekend was the car show. Isn't it great to live in a town where we feel that we are safe to go out and in the public and celebrate? We had 494 cars, Sandra Tennell told me, at the car show. And between the Main Street and the committee, I think they did a wonderful job. It was a beautiful day, a little warm, but it has been a little warm across the board. So I just want to thank them for putting on a nice event for the community of Ashland to enjoy. So,
I didn't go to it myself, but you did,
yeah, I did. I
and
did.
despite the heat, it was a good turnout.
Yes, there were people everywhere.
Good,
Yeah.
good, yeah. Mr. Miller?
They stole my thunder. Nothing else.
Yes.
They have a way of doing that.
The
yeah.
car show does lead to a question, though, that some people have asked about the restrooms. What is the delay on the restrooms?
Yeah.
Do we want to share any public information about the restrooms that are being built down there?
I have none.
Well, what was written in a news article was, there was kind of a last minute change on the style and type of window. And they're waiting for the windows to come in. So, they won't be able to do the cladding and those kind of things until the windows are installed.
I see. That's interesting.
That's what I read.
Yeah, well, it's more than I had, honestly, but it was made out online to be something.
Yeah, it's not catastrophic. It's
yeah.
waiting on some windows,
Okay, good, good.
so.
All right. Well, Angela and I went to a ribbon cutting today. Oh, forgive me. Go ahead,
This
Jason.
is my turn?
Yeah, I thought you were just
Well,
giving your turn, so
Well,
forgive me.
it's okay.
We have
Actually.
a long time till
I
7:30,
don't,
so.
right, I don't go, I don't get to the park very often, Brookside, Maine, and had the opportunity to be there on Saturday for a couple hours. And, one, the park's beautiful. It was awesome to see how much it's being utilized. And I absolutely could not believe the number of cars parked around the city pool. But it was, 92 degrees, but, I was just, when I left out that way past the pool, I was just totally taken aback by the mass of people that were at the pool. So it's good to see everybody's enjoying it. It's good to see that all the ball fields were full, and pavilions were all full, and it was a good time. Had a good time down there, so.
Good. I think I shared with you before, on a weekday, I was down in the park at the miniature golf. Counted 40 people playing miniature golf. That, I couldn't believe it. It was a mob, but yeah, it's great. It's very nice. Yeah, yeah. Funny story though, I've actually had people come up to me and talk about the park and say it's so nice, and it's so nice that the city has their own ice cream stand in the park. Well, that's not ours, but it is very nice.
It does
Yeah.
kind of look like it.
Fits right in,
It
yeah,
does.
so, yeah. Harley is a good proprietor down there, and he's a big fan of the city, and we're a big fan of him and his ice cream stand for sure, so, yeah. All right, well,
Do we have a
Before we-
progress update on the road construction going on West Main?
I don't have anything currently. They're still working on the bridge. And yeah, I think it's going to be most of the summer, from my understanding.
I
That's what the
think so,
mayor
too.
told me last I checked. Yeah. These things don't ever happen ahead of schedule. Have you noticed? Yeah.
They do that.
So, yeah, I'm not holding my breath, but I'm sure, what I'm told by the county engineer who's in charge of it, they're working diligently on it, so, yeah. To get back to my personal comments, Angela and I were at a ribbon cutting today for the RE/MAX Showcase reopening. They remodeled their offices on Main Street. They're beautiful. There was a good crowd there, and I just want to say that, you know, realtors provide a valuable and important service for our community. Their fundamental purpose is to help people achieve homeownership. And I had the privilege of giving some remarks there and explained to them that we are working diligently and hard at work trying to increase that inventory of housing. And there are things in the works behind the scenes. I know the mayor's constantly talking with developers and though we can't divulge any plans at this time, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I assured them that we remain focused on that and business development and so on. There are a lot of people that want to move to Ashland, and we want to facilitate that in any way we can. So it was a good program, wasn't it?
Yes, very much.
Well, with that, then, we'll turn it over to our audience for comments or questions, and we have a very limited audience here. But I did invite Pastor John Bouquet to come and speak to us regarding Saturday's rally, and speak to us a little bit on the spiritual aspect of that. And John, if you would address council, we would certainly appreciate that, and our community at large, so.
Well, thank you, Steve, and council. As Ben prayed, I love Ashland. I've been here 42 years, and I've seen a lot of changes. So it's very interesting. Obviously, we all know where we were Saturday night when this happened. I'm old enough now to remember where I was when John Kennedy was killed. So I think Larry's about the only one that can laugh with me on that one. But it's very moving when we find a nation whose soul gets so hardened to its issues that it chooses that they have the right to take somebody else's life. So it did provoke many phone calls from the pastor's side of things now. Phone calls, emails, texts. Did I see it? What do I think of it? What does it mean to enter into Sunday morning? And you can imagine there were people saying, of course, the sermon is going to be changed, right? And the answer is wrong. To concluding church, and the Ashland source called. So it was, it caused us a lot of thinking, and I had communicated with our ministerial leadership, Mr. McNeely and Melanie Miller, because she's on the executive team, and Keith Tyson, Kelly Smith, to ask them if we're going to make a statement, we're going to make a unified statement like Mr. Workman did tonight. So, well, that led to an interesting discussion with Dylan as we got to the place where we were ready to make a statement. So I think some of the things that we had to consider, and I know you do too, and even people in our audience and the people that are watching us online, is words are very powerful. And sometimes words can be weapons. And so I did speak on behalf of our ministerial, that since our profession is words, from the word, oftentimes we have to be very careful how we deliver that, how we say it. And I said, you know, professionally speaking, it is my opinion that the rhetoric of the candidates and both parties has exceeded what is kind and considerate. And I'm for taking sides. Don't get me wrong. I'm a very competitive person, but the words have gotten to the place where we're now vitriol. And we're raising this awareness that someone is evil and giving labels to them where it just stirs the emotions of what I would call undisciplined people who don't have the ability to pull back from that. And as Mr. Workman ended his statement, we ended ours by saying, you know, we condemn all forms of violence. Well, I think it's necessary that we who speak in the public must also condemn vitriol words and rhetoric that is demeaning and rhetoric that causes someone else to even think that person shouldn't live. The second thing I noted, and I think we'll all agree with this, is there was definitely some divine intervention for Mr. Trump's head to turn at the right moment. And I think the picture that I still can't get out of my mind is the one with the bullet that goes over his head. And then to think that, you know, somebody else had to give their life, who just came to an event to cheer on their guy. And it doesn't matter if it was a Democrat at a Democratic rally or a Republican at a Republican rally. Somebody came just to innocently say, that's my guy, and his life ended. So we spoke as pastors and community leaders that words are powerful, and we believe those words are really, it's even deeper than the Constitution. You know, we strongly believe in the freedom of press, we believe in the freedom of speech, we believe the freedom of religion, and I would go that starts with our Creator. He's the one that gave us the ability to speak, and sometimes speak our minds, even to the point where someone might be offended by that, or someone, I'm sure someone will be maybe not very happy with my comments tonight, which is fine, and I respect them for their position as well as I would ask them to respect of mine. But they come from the divine Creator himself that gave us the ability. So it is also the same Creator that gave us the right to live. And I don't think anyone else has the right to take another person's life just because they don't like them or they don't agree with them. So we did speak to that. The next level of that conversation with the source and with our pastors came down to, well, we're obviously going to be praying for the Trump family and praising the Lord for protection on his life. But I went to the next levels of praying for Corey's family, praying for the families of the injured, and then the person that will become most disliked in this entire process. But there's still a set of parents whose very son will never come home again. And as horrible as he was for that moment, and no one knows, and the truth is no one will know. There will be those that will speculate. No one knows why he did it. No one knows what he came to the place of thinking he could do it. But those parents are still in mourning. And I said to the same effect that we would pray for the president's family and the family of the deceased and the injured, we have a shooter's family that probably doesn't even want to come out from behind their houses and live in society. And you know what? It's really in the world of the spiritual, Steve and counsel and friends, we love forgiveness. We love, dear God, forgive me, I've sinned against you. Please, get it off my shoulders. But we're not as quick to give forgiveness. We're not as quick to release someone from the sin that they do against us. So we spoke to that issue, and I just think the words that are really important for us as a community is, by God's grace, Donald J. Trump still lives. And we hope to have an election between two men that believe strongly in what they believe in. And those of us all have our positions laid out, I'm sure. But an election with those two men running accordingly is proper and fair, and no one has the right to take either of them out by their own volition. So then we ended by calling the community to pray and saying, we're committed to bringing a prayer support to this. I think we need to speak to those of us in our church world that we can't be cheering on someone that is weak or someone that almost got killed. I think we have to be really, really careful that our positions about issues does not supersede our respect for human life. Now, I have a very strong opinion. I'm going to say this very carefully. But when we lose respect for life, then these kinds of things begin to surface in our culture. And our country is hurting in its soul because we do not respect life like we once did. I have a friend, I'll keep him nameless at this quote, but I'll give it to you privately. He said, this is the summation of where we are as a country. We've lost God and we're losing man. Because it's man that gives us our respect for, it's God who gives us our respect for humanity. So it was an interesting discussion. It's been an interesting few days because it's almost every day right now that someone's coming up and asking, so, what do you think of the events of the weekend? And I try to put it into the perspective of where does this fit into the divine? Okay, because we know all of us are here today and possibly gone tomorrow. And I don't know that any of us in this room or anybody online controls that. So I think very carefully when I looked at all the footage, listened to all the reporters and all the commentary, and by the way, we have some professional commentators out there that know all the answers. Here's the bottom line. God intervened in Donald Trump's life and turned his head at the right moment, and that bullet missed him. And he's alive today because it wasn't his time to die. And so I think we're all going to learn that lesson. If you have any questions for me, I'm not an authority on this, but I am getting a lot of people ask me.
Pastor McKay, I appreciate your comments. Let me add to that. I became painfully aware today, overhearing some conversations, that the children among us are struggling to understand this. And some of them are repeating that vitriolic
Right.
rhetoric that you just referred to. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I would use this opportunity to say to our public, be careful about what you say when you're in the presence of little ones.
Yeah, there are little ears listening.
Exactly.
But there are even, Dan, thank you, there are also adult ears listening for some of us who represent the authorities of our current day, whether we be council people, people in politics, law enforcement, or those of us in the ministry. We're looked to for opinions. And I think we have to be careful what we say and how we say it. And I guess the other area that is of tremendous concern to me, and this is not my field, and it's probably not yours either, but what we are doing on the social media world is not helping this process, because there seems to be a courage that's there to post things that we would never say face-to-face to another person. And I think, Dan, somehow we have to find a way to put some guards on that, because the tone has to come down, in my opinion. But thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I appreciate Steve and I had a lengthy conversation today. Truth is, I'm pinch hitting for Sherry because he wanted her, but she's taking care of a grandbaby in Columbus with the kids. So
You're a good second fiddle.
I said, honey, I'll pinch hit for you today. You'll be all right. They'll have you back. So, any other questions?
You give us a lot to think about, Pastor Bouquet.
Well, we're in this together. Ben prayed a great prayer for us tonight.
He did.
when he said, we live in this very unique community that has public service, private sector, and spiritual world are very much interlocked and believe that God's doing a really special thing in Ashland.
Yeah.
So, and I think we're privileged to be a part of that. Thank you for the council. Thank you for receiving our pastors and spiritual leaders when they come to pray, because they actually all look forward to this.
Well,
So-
we appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to go over,
That's
you
all
got
right.
5 minutes before
Yeah.
your big meeting.
We're good.
Thanks, John.
In preparing this statement today earlier, I was reminded of the statement of, but by the grace of God go I. And this puts it in a very literal sense when you see that picture of the bullet going by. But the call to action is prayer for our community. And if those who are listening, those who will read this in the source possibly, or in our minutes, pray. Pray with us. I believe this council is very measured in its words. I know that because sometimes when we speak to each other, we hesitate to say some things in our opinions and our thoughts. And I appreciate that. I want you to know that. And I think we all appreciate one another in our measured remarks. So let's continue to uphold that standard as a council and as an administration. So thank you again. With that, it is 7:26. Larry, do you have a finance director's report?
I've turned my mic on. I've been instructed that I don't always do that, and I certainly apologize if I do not do that. I have not received a report back from the 23 audit in the state auditor's office. It was submitted, and I think I may have mentioned that at the last council meeting. We have not received that report back. We have been obviously working on the tax budget. I asked, the agenda was changed this evening by your worthy clerk, who I emailed. All day I kept thinking I was missing something. And I'm working on my presentation this evening, and there's something. What have I forgotten? Well,
Glad that happens to other people.
I forgot the legislation. We've had hopefully 2 hearings, and I failed to submit the legislation to your clerk for your consideration this evening. And I certainly do apologize to you for that.
We forgive you.
Sometimes you get so close to the woods that you can't see the trees, and apparently I'm there. But I would ask that you consider the ordinance after we hold the public hearing so that we can move forward with it. I will be more than happy to read the ordinance, since I'm the one that forgot to send it to you.
No, that's not necessary.
Anyways, regardless of that, why, the tax budget, I know we have a couple of minutes, but at this point, it is a process that we must do every year, even if you do forget the ordinance. And in doing that, it's just a exercise in preparing for the 2025 appropriations, which will come later. Once we complete this process, we will submit it to the County Budget Commission for their consideration. They also hold a public hearing, of which I attend and answer any questions they may have, of which then they will send to you another piece of legislation adopting that millage in those tax requirements. Keep in mind that the tax budget is only to establish its main purpose as far as of the county is concerned is to establish the millage and the allocation of how that property tax will then be divided between the general fund and the police and fire pension funds, the bond retirement fund, and the park levy. The park levy is outside millage, so that is dedicated 5 mils or 5/10 of a mil, excuse me. And in doing that, that money is solely allocated and set aside. But the other inside millage can be allocated differently if we so desire. Most recently, we have been allocating most of it to the general fund and then some of it to the bond retirement fund in an effort to retire debt without having to tap other funds in an effort to retire the debt as we can without having to put pressure on other funds to also fund our retirement.
Very
Okay.
good. Yeah. All right, well, it is 7:30, and we can open our second public hearing for the 2025 tax budget. Does council have any questions for Mr. Paxton? Any further discussion on the matter?
Appreciate the overview.
Okay.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Yes, very
Thank you.
helpful. Thank you.
Well, when I realized the agenda was rather light tonight, this evening, I figured that maybe I should expound on that tax budget a little bit more. Please keep in mind that tax budget is not required to be balanced. It is a working document. And as such, we use estimated cash carryovers based off of what we believe we may end up with at the end of the year. Two things come into play. One, the cash carryover that a fund may not use between now and the end of the year, which helps that fund then to start the following year with a little more resources. The other thing is the revenue streams that we have to calculate based off of what we know today. It's almost like you get a crystal ball out and you try to look into it to discover where we are financially today and how the next 5 months will bring us to the close of the calendar year. So in doing that, we are kind of holding our own right now on the income tax is one of those allocations. And it's staying pretty steady with where we allocated this year's revenue stream. It fluctuates a little bit up and down every day. Please keep in mind, though, that we really will not have final numbers for the income tax until probably about the end of October. If you are savvy enough to get an extension and you don't have to file your federal or state or local returns until the middle of October, well, then we really don't see those numbers, those final numbers, until the end of the month. So in doing that, that kind of delays us a little bit. And we do take a conservative approach to trying to project those revenue numbers, but still, it does us no good to hoard money and not use it for its intended purpose. So we try to find a happy medium there to where we can provide the funding that we need in order to operate in the coming year, as well as try to still finish the year strong. So in doing that, the tax budget does not have to be balanced. The appropriations does. So that's the real document of what we get to spend for the following year. Another estimate that we do try to hold to is that we try to retain 2 to 3 payrolls of those operating funds that do have payrolls. For example, the general fund has the police and the fire and the finance and this council and the mayor's office and the law director's office and other funds within it or departments within it. So we try to retain 2 to 3 payrolls in advance, because to stop one accounting period and then start another accounting period, it takes a little effort to complete that. So we try to hold enough cash in those funds in an effort to make those payrolls and those taxes and those pension commitments in the coming year for a period of time until we get back into the line of business. So it does take a little effort to accomplish that. It's not the most glamorous job when you have to tell someone they can't buy something in December, but in an effort to anticipate January and February, sometimes we have to do that in an effort to complete that process. Another thing that also happens between now and the end of the year is we're also looking at those cash balances because you estimate income on a monthly basis. Well, along with that, your operating expenses don't go away. You still have to provide goods and services and things to the citizens that we all work for. So you have to try to anticipate, A, those operating expenses that you're going to incur between now and the end of the year, and B, the revenue stream to meet those. So in doing that, that does take a little balancing act. We do look at a lot of numbers on a regular basis to do that. The most important thing that you can look at, which gives you a really good understanding of where we fall at the end of the month, is the month-end reports that are emailed out and posted on our website. It shows the cash balances as well as the operating expenses, and it does give us a good understanding of where we are and where we will be or where we think we'll be. Keeping in mind that I'm going to put that disclaimer on everything that I do. This is a working document. It's a breathing document in the fact that we may not know of something. There may be something break between now and the end of the year. Well, and it may cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix. In a case like that, why you have to be able to accommodate and anticipate a little bit as best you can, but you don't know. So if you break a water softener at the water treatment plant, that could cost almost $1 million now to fix. So you have to be a little available and open to, trying to meet the need and still keep on track of where we are in the appropriations. I'll be more than happy to read this 2.5 pages if you like, but I don't believe, I think I paraphrased it a little bit. There are 54 funds within the tax budget. There are 7 different types of funds. The general fund, there's a special revenue fund, there is a capital improvement fund, a debt retirement fund, an enterprise fund, and then there's a internal service fund and a fiduciary fund. All of those have different meanings and are established purposely for a particular reason. And in doing that, only the general fund is the fund that has the flexibility of being able to transfer money from the general fund to a special revenue fund or a capital improvement fund or whatever the case may be. All those other funds are locked in for a particular purpose, and in doing that, we really try to watch that and monitor that as best we can. So the overall tax budget, the tax budget before you this evening is about $79 million. And that is up a few $1,000,000 from our previous appropriations for this year. There are some grants and some anticipated programs that will be coming down the road in '25 that we will be trying to complete, which will cause us to receive that grant money or to at least record those payments to the contractors. But it is up a little bit, but not a whole lot right now. But again, that's kind of where we're at.
I would request not to read in full.
I am so disappointed.
Yeah. And I would make a comment that if anyone in the audience is, and viewing this is wondering why we're not peppering Larry with questions, it's because for most of us, this is the third or fourth tax budget we've gone through. Larry's an open book, so if we have specific questions, we call him, we get our answers, and so, this is something, again, Larry also said this is a working document. It's fluid, and we realize that, and we have a comfort factor in being familiar with the process and how this works, so.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Yeah. Well, with that, then, we'll open it up to the members in our audience. If anyone here would like to comment regarding the tax budget, you're more than welcome to do so at this time. And with that, then, hearing none, we'll close our second hearing and move right to the ordinance. This will be an ordinance adopting the tax budget of the city of Ashland, Ohio for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2025, submitting the same to the county auditor and declaring an emergency. Since we're just receiving this today, it must be read in full, and you'll realize and appreciate after I read this why we moved to not read in full. Number one, because we've had it since Friday, and secondly, it is a lengthy process, so I'll begin. Whereas a hearing to receive public comment on the proposed tax budget for the city of Ashland, Ohio for the year 2025 was held on July 2nd, 2024 at 7:30 PM and July 16th, 2024 at 7:30 PM as required by law. And whereas said proposed budget is now before council for approval and for submission to the county auditor. And whereas this council desires to approve said proposed budget, and whereas in order to comply with filing deadline requirements for submission of said proposed budget, this ordinance is declared to be an emergency measure immediately necessary for the preservation of the public peace, property, health, safety, and welfare of the city of Ashland, Ohio. Now therefore, be it ordained by the city of council of the city of Ashland, Ohio, members thereto concurring, Section 1, that the proposed tax budget of the city of Ashland for the year 2025 be and the same is hereby approved. Section 2, that the Director of Finance is hereby requested to forward a certified copy of said proposed budget to the auditor of the Ashland County, Ohio. Section 3, that in order to comply with filing deadline requirements for submission of said proposed budget, this ordinance is declared to be an emergency measure immediately necessary for the preservation of the public peace, property, health, safety, and welfare of the city of Ashland, Ohio. And Section 4, that this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage by council and approval pursuant to Section 12 of the Charter of the City of Ashland, Ohio. So ends the reading. And with that, is there a motion to approve on the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
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 I will move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you. Aye.
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 Motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Ordinance 46-24.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you for pulling the finance director out of a tight one again. I appreciate that.
Okay. This mayor isn't here this evening. He won't have a report. However, there are a couple dates I just want to remind the public of. I believe it's July 26th is the date for the Big Splash Pool Party coming up. If you haven't seen that posted anywhere or heard about that, that'll be July 26th. And then the mayor's golf outing, that is August 9th, thank you. And looking forward to that. I think we always have a good turnout for that. So with that, if there are no other comments or questions from our audience,
Mr. Chair, I believe we're going to insert another meeting. Do we need to make an announcement about that?
yes, thank you. We are planning a special meeting on August 6th to take care of some business that is pending that we want to get in before we recess. Council will be in recess for the month of August, but we've called a special meeting for August 6th to conduct that business. It'll be, is that a Tuesday, Terry? Tuesday evening, just like this. And public's welcome to come. It'll be at 7 PM. And, but we need to call it a special meeting because it's not a regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you, Mr. Lawson. And then, first meeting after August will be when, Terry? September 3rd. Okay, very good. At 7 PM right here. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.